Let me take a drink. I am in the presence, drink of water, of Michael Pedone, SalesBuzz CEO, owner. Mike, how are we doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. This is Fireside Cold Calls. That's the podcast, the 3M podcast that we're rolling with. And I figured you'd be a great guy to get on. A, we use SalesBuzz all the time. And B, you are kind of like the celebrity of the 3M sales org. So what do you got to
Wow.
say right off the bat? What do you think about
A little humbling, but I appreciate it. I'm glad all my trials and tribulations that I went through as a straight commission sales rep is able to help shorten the learning curve for a lot of other people.
Beautiful, beautiful, and that's what it's all about. And it's a great training program. Very thorough, process oriented, love it, and it's very practical, and it's very no BS. It's raw, it's uncut. That's what I like about it. And what I want to know, obviously, that's built for more of the first couple calls, few calls, however long that initial sales process is. Um, for 3M, in a lot of instances, it's a reoccurring sales relationship. How can you, and I know we're just going right off the top here, these are all raw answers. How can you use sales buzz knowing that it's built for the first sales cycle to keep the customer coming back? Does it change? What do you think?
Sure. So it's interesting that you bring this up because it was recently, like within the last week or so, that I posted just randomly on my LinkedIn posts that I don't because I saw somebody posting about how to build customer loyalty and all this stuff. I looked at that for a second. I'm like, I don't believe in customer loyalty. I really don't. I believe that my customer, just like I would, is always going to be looking for whatever the best solution is for them. And so that I almost think that's kind of in my advantage. It keeps me on my toes, right? Because I want to keep their business. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure that they're getting the best value. And so when it comes to something like an order where you have a clients where your business process is where it's not just a one sale, right? There's going to be multiple sales, there's multiple opportunities to keep them going, is I'm always want to approach it on, what can I do to help make them better? What kind of ideas can I come up with? Where can I make them more productive? Where can I get them more value? Things of that nature. And I think if you really focus on that from that angle, from that aspect, not from the how do I keep revenue coming in, but more how can I help them, then I think you're just going to have a lot. Those relationships are going to be a lot longer because I think they'll end up valuing that, and then there might be a chance where somebody else might be just a little bit less expensive, but maybe the same solution that they'll stick with you because you're always focusing in on that area. So maybe you won't lose a deal just because it was a little bit less expensive, right? So if you're always focusing on your prospect on what's best for them, you just can't go wrong.
Right, and it's a customer focused selling world, really
Yeah.
is. Um, did you have any renditions of Sales Buzz done where it was less focused on the customer? Did you have to tweak your module at all?
No, so let me way back up. Earlier, I mentioned I was glad that my trials and tribulations were able to help other people. So let me just say this: early on in my sales career as a straight commission sales rep, selling by phone, I'm talking like Wolf of Wall Street, hitting the phones, or even going back to the Pursuit of Happiness, right, with Will Smith. Have you ever seen those movies? If you haven't, I recommend it. That's the real world stuff. I mean, I might not have been selling those kind of things, but it was the same scenarios where it's on the phone and you're doing outbound calls. And early on as a straight commission sales rep, I got a new family. If I don't close anything, I don't eat. And you're really focused on winning the deal and closing the deal at all costs. And I quickly learned that, one, especially something particular I was selling at the time, you can get an RMA, right? Return merchandise authorization. Nothing kills your motivation faster when you're all of a sudden you're missing $1,000 out of your paycheck that you weren't expecting, right? And so when I realized I was really focusing on just closing any deal I could, and then sometimes it might not have always been best for that person, I learned early quickly that, what? If I take a step back, if I seek to help others get what they need, and if I learn to ask questions, because they might not know what they need at first, if I learn to ask the right questions to see if a problem exists, there's more interaction. The closing is easier, and they stay with me longer. And I really just from that, just asked from early on, that's what really helped me, learn that I really need to seek to help other people. And that's just been the way it is. So whether it's a short one-term sale, or if it's going to be somebody that I want to do larger sales and for the longer term, I just think that's the right approach. With that being said, I always have it in my mind of the end goal is to close that next deal. So you have to mirror those two things. So that's my, I want to help. I won't try to close somebody that I can't help. I actually had somebody the other day contacted me. They wanted my stuff, and what they were really looking for, I wasn't going to be a good fit. And I actually told them that. And they were a repeat customer from before in the past, and the new situation, like it's not gonna help. You're better off going to one of these other cheaper things. I think you'll get what you want. Whether they ever come back to me or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that I helped them, and then I know they'll probably tell 10 other people, but that's not why I did it. It was just the right thing to do. And it's just, if you always operate from that standpoint, and you're following the sales techniques that I've outlined in the course, you're going to be golden. It's a win-win. You just can't lose.
Correct. And I like in the module, in the process, you make sure to, check these boxes that, what's the word? Qualify them as a solution seeker. Mm-hmm. You just said you couldn't help this guy or gal. I think that's great that you told them that, because subconsciously in your mind, if you keep going with the prospect is not qualified for you, you become a BS artist in your mind. Subconsciously, consciously, doesn't matter. You always want, correct me if I'm wrong. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you start to lose sleep at night. At least you should, right? If you start to close like that, where it wasn't the best thing for them. And so it's just better to, I'm always seeking to find the problem that I can help solve. And if it's not there, you're better, sure, I've made the mistakes early on my sales process, early on in my career, where it's not probably the best thing, but hey, I need a deal and I'm just going to keep going with it. And so I'm going to admit I've made that mistake before in the past, but I learned from that mistake. And I hope that if you have anybody new that's listening, just getting into sales, hopefully they could learn not to make that mistake. But hey, I think just about every salesperson that's been in sales for a while may have done that. And if you look back, you go, it's just not the right thing to do. You're better off seeking to help, because here's the thing. If you can't help them, when you let them know, it's not just about doing what's right for them. You're also doing what's right for you and your company. And the sooner you can get off that call and point them in the right direction, get on to the next call you can help, that's really where you need to be anyway.
I like it. Here's another question. So when you make, the training videos, I take it your idea is just to make it applicable to just the majority of the sales situations you'll encounter, right?
Yeah.
Has there been times where you'll take your process? I assume you sell your own process, right? Colonel Sanders cooks KFC for himself and his own chicken.
That's right.
But have you had to tweak it based on a personality that you could feel through the phone that maybe wouldn't, for example, the doesn't make sense line, the infamous line, doesn't make sense. I've in SalesBuzz before, I've said, I don't know, maybe sometimes people would take that as offensive. Like, are you questioning their intelligence? Know what I mean? Have you felt through the phone that somebody might be offended by that, or something else in the process where you're like, I don't know if this personality type is going to respond well to this?
No, because here's the thing. First, so what you're referring to is the tie down, right? During the presentation where you're asking so, and I've seen that it was recently within the last 6 months or so, that popular, video somebody was posting around that you shouldn't say that, right? Some new person trying to be a sales girl. Sure, I get it.
Did somebody come out and say that?
Yeah, they're saying you shouldn't say this. They were trying to make it an issue that you shouldn't say this. And there were so many people on LinkedIn agreeing that, you shouldn't say that. And I'm just like, okay, sure, go right ahead. And then those are the same people that are going to follow bad sales advice are going to struggle on the phone, right? So when you really understand what the purpose of that tie down is, I'm truly seeking to understand. The last thing you want to do is when you're starting your sales presentation, first of all, you don't want to go from start to finish without taking a breath, right? You need to, I was taught this by somebody a long time ago with the tie down, that when you're giving a presentation, you have to make sure that the person is with you. It's almost like if you're driving a speedboat and they're behind, they're skiing, you want to make sure they're still with you. You don't want to make sure you left them at the dock or they fell off or whatever, and you just keep going. So you got to make sure that they're with you. So with that being said, your question was more along the lines of, do you get the sense that they're not going to resonate? with
Yeah,
the
just
question.
different
Yeah.
personality types are going to respond differently. I'm just wondering if you ran into that before.
Sure. So this is where experience comes in. So you still have to follow the same sales process. It's almost like before we started the recording, you're talking like we're more hockey guys, right? But the analogy I like to use is baseball. Every time you pick up the phone, you're in the batter's box. And even if you hit, you got to touch all the bases. I mean, so even if you hit a double, you can't run across the pitcher's mound right to second base, right? You still got to go to first, second. Even if you hit a grand slam, you still got to go around, touch all the bases, right? The sales process is the same way. So where the experience comes in, and sure, this happens all the time, where I'm in the middle of a conversation, and that because of the amount of experience I have, that intuition picks up, where based on, it could be something subtle, like how they're responding and their tone is, and that I might change the question a little bit to match what I feel their personality is, but I'm still covering that step. So instead of saying, does that make sense? I might be able to tell this like, so are you with me so far? I just want to make sure this is fitting, right? Yep. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. It still did the same thing, right? They're with me. They understood. And I'm also listening. And the good news is this: if you can tell that maybe the way I normally ask the question, is it going to work with this person? So I have to switch it up. I love that, because what that's telling me is, one, you're following the sales process, but you're not focused on the sales process and forgetting about your prospect. You're able to do those two things. So you're real time, you're analyzing everything that person is saying, how they're saying it. And when you're selling by phone, which includes Zoom and VoIP and all that stuff these days, right? You really have to have those those sensors up, listening as you follow the sales process. And it really helps when you've mastered the sales process, because then it's just like, it's natural.
It's ingrained into you. You're just
Yeah.
automatic.
Yeah.
You said Zoom. With COVID, it may or may not have changed the sales landscape for maybe ever. We don't know. Until we're holograms, until we're projecting ourselves in the stores as holograms, Zoom probably will be the virtual way. Is there going to be a SalesBuzz 2.0 for Zoom?
So, what? I've been asked that several times. And the reality is this: here's where I feel that, once again, we're going to go back to baseball, right? The process is the same, no matter if you're believe it or not, if you're face to face or over the phone or over Zoom or over VoIP, the process is the same. But the mistake a lot of times people make is they try to set that appointment and they get that Zoom call and they totally jump over a ton of steps in the qualifying process. They want to get right to the demo. And they want to show them what they can do. And they never got problem recognition. They never took the time to ask 2 or 3 questions to really bubble that problem up to the surface, even if it's a warm lead, right? So let's just define a warm lead as a hand raise, right? Somebody that's reached out to you, has asked some information. A definition of a cold call: contacting any prospect that's not currently raising their hand. That includes, by the way, your existing accounts. If you haven't, because you mentioned earlier that you want to keep those accounts coming, you want to keep them, producing things of that nature. So if you call one of your existing accounts, they're not expecting your call, they didn't ask for the call, they didn't send you an email, they didn't ask you a question, that's still technically a cold call. Nothing wrong with that. But you have to know, I still have to pique their interest first. So if I call you, I go, hey, Greg, it's Michael Pedone with SalesBuzz. Listen, I have another idea that might be able to help you close some even more deals. Do you have a second? Yeah, sure. Well, then let me ask you. Great. Let me ask you this. See, right? So I'm right in, even though you're familiar with me, but it's the same process. So when it comes to the Zoom thing, I think if everybody got back to basics, the basics of from step 1 to step 2, I think companies, I think a lot more people would be hitting their quota. I read a stat recently that, and they put it in a positive, that 60% of the salespeople are hitting quota. I'm going, as a business owner, I'm going, damn, that means 40% I'm losing revenue, right? So I know that maybe 100% is not, if everybody's hitting 100%, I'm probably, the quota's too low, but 60%, there could be a problem there. So but just think about that. A lot of companies, they'll that extra 20%, if they had 80% hitting quota, probably means they're dialed in just right. But that extra 20% is hitting quota, that extra revenue is usually the difference between the red and the black. And so with that being said, having the sales team getting back to basics, I think there are going to be a lot more people, no matter if it's Zoom, VoIP, or over the phone. So it's a long answer to your question, but I hope that explains it for everybody.
No, I was with you the whole time. You didn't have to, tie me down. I was there. I was along for the ride.
Nice.
But another question. I think we have a few minutes left. Again, I said I'm a sales guy. I could talk forever, but attention spans. We got a call too. I got a call. I gotta go close a deal. Where was I going though? I'm just too much of a talker. Oh, so have you had a client come back let's say after a year or 2 years of, utilizing the buzz, and they say, hey, we're not doing as well as we thought. And then you said, okay, let's make this adjustment. And then they just exploded in sales. Basically.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. So the number one thing is this, and I learned, I'm going to tell you a quick story before we run out of time. So I'm going to answer that. So yes, the number one thing is if somebody does come back and say that, I mean, the course is really easy to follow, right? I mean, it's really hard not to follow along because of the way it's laid out. But there are times if somebody goes, hey, it's just not working for us. Okay, great. I'll tell you what, record some of your sales reps calls, send them to me. Let's set up a private meeting. We'll get your sales team in a live call, right? In a live Zoom call, webinar, whatever. I'll play it back and I'll break down exactly what they're doing, where the mistakes are. And I'll even role play back so you have it on recording on how it's supposed to be said and what's supposed to be said. And 9 times out of, I want to say 10 times out of 10, but let's just say 9 times out of 10, they're not following the process. They're like, oh, I'm saying the same things you are, but they're not. I mean, sometimes the words matter, and those little, sometimes it's not, people say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's actually incorrect. It's what you say and how you say it, right? So the story I wanted to tell you, one of my first inside sales jobs, I was selling by phone. There was this top guy there. He would role play with everybody in the morning. You had to be quote unquote special to get into his role playing class. And I was one of those guys. They saw something in me. He's like, hey, start going to them. And I came back next day. It's like, yeah, I was trying what you're doing. It didn't work at all. He goes, really? All right, let me hear it. And I go, so I fed it back to him. I go, see, I'm saying the same thing you are. I said it back. He goes, no, you didn't. You left these 2 words out and your inflection is off. And that made all the difference. And I went back out to the sales floor. I fixed that. And all of a sudden things went through the roof. I was killing it after that. So sometimes it's just a little tweak. So this is why I encourage everybody. They have to record themselves. They have to role play with their team. The only thing salespeople hate more than cold calling is role playing, but iron sharpens iron. And when you role play and you record yourself and you put yourself out, get out of that comfort zone, you're going to earn more money. You're going to get better, quicker, and earn more money.
Can you go into voice inflection a little bit? This is like a bonus. This is like a sales lock or a SalesBuzz bonus feature.
Yeah. So the voice, I have a daughter that's an actress, right? And so I can see her in 1 minute talk this way, another minute talk that way, another minute talk another way, whatever the scene calls for. And when it comes to sales inflection, if you just read a script, like a lot of times people say, because when you take the SalesBuzz course, you're gonna learn to develop a sales playbook, right? But that means there's little micro things of the right words to say at the right time and the right reason. But if you just sit there and you read it, just like an actress would read a script, it's going to be flat. So you have to I always say this, use your own personality and just go with it, but be in the moment. I mean, I always tell people when you're making a cold call, if you're having a hard time finding the right tone of voice and the right inflection, before you pick up the phone, make sure that the person on the other phone that you're calling, just imagine that your best friend asked you to call them. It's their aunt or uncle and they need some help. And if you get in that mindset, like, let me just call and see if I can help them, it takes the pressure off of you, but then you're just having a conversation and you let that natural tone come through. If you just read the script flat, I mean, you have to understand people that say they don't like scripts. Every Oscar winning actor and actress all had a script. They made it their own though. And they learned to do that inflection at the right time. So the words are just a small part of it. Just reading them is not going to get you the deal. You have to be listening, you have to be interpreting, and you have to make sure that your inflection is in that conversational zone. And if you do that and you practice that, you're going to be very successful. And I think the best way to get that inflection down is just to, like I said, imagine that person was asked, you were asked to call that person. And it's somebody that you know, that is a relative of theirs or a friend of theirs, and it'll take that pressure off. You're focused on seeing if you can help them. So there's no pressure of trying to close them. You're just calling to see if you can help. You're going to stay in control by gaining permission, right? Peak interest, gain permission, ask your engagement question. Next thing you know, the conversation's off and running. And as long as you studied the material and you know what questions to ask, you're going to be golden. And by the way, there's going to be times where you realize that you skipped a step. That's perfect. I'm glad that you realize, you're like, damn, I'm going this way. Everything's going fine. I got off track a little bit. I'm up here. And all you have to do is, you got to, you know what? There's one thing I forgot to ask. Let me ask you this. And you just swing right back and you get that covered. And then you go right back to where you were again. And the beauty of it is knowing I'm happy when somebody says, damn, I skipped a step, but they recognized it. They're on the right path. They're on the right path because you're always getting better at this stuff. And it's okay to make a mistake. Just learn that you made it and then move on.
Yep. Yep. And I like the point about recording yourself. It's like watching film. Tom Brady watches.
Absolutely. That's our boy down here in Tampa, right?
Oh God. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. I got to get off this call. But hey, one more thing, actually. So you've been doing sales for how many years?
Over 25.
So let's say your first 5 years, first 10 years of sales, what was the biggest mistake you were making that you'd go back and slap yourself silly for doing?
Wasn't focused on the close. That was the number one mistake that I made. I wasn't focused on the close, right? So let me explain, because I don't want this to contradict what I said earlier. You want to see if you can help, right? And right equal with that, though, the reason why you want to see if you can help to see is if there's an opportunity there. And so early on, I started in like car sales, right? And nobody liked being a car salesman. Nobody likes car salespeople, right? At the time, especially. And I didn't want to be one of those. So if somebody come on the lot or whatever, I would just try to be way over friendly. And when you try to be over friendly, you try to build that false sincere rapport and things of that nature, just to get them to like you. But you don't have that goal of closing, with walking them down the path, you're not going to win deals. Got fired. I was like, damn, what did I do wrong? And then it clicked for me. But everything I learned, then I went into another sales, and all of a sudden I was a top guy. And then, just kept moving from there. So that would be the thing, is like, the purpose is, listen, I want to see if there's an opportunity to close here. I don't want to close somebody that doesn't need my help. So I want to see if they can help. But right up there's a purpose of why do I want to see it help. And that's your job when you're sitting in that seat.
Beautiful. I got like 7 more questions, but it's over, man. The clock has hit 0. We need to get this out to the community. And I thank you for coming on, Mike. This was fun. It's good to see, a face to the voice that's been staying everywhere in our organization. So thanks.
Awesome. All right. My pleasure. Take care.
You too.